What if freedom was stitched not with chains unbound, but with threads laced in venom? What if a woman's quiet hands carried a power more lethal than musket or whip? They called her Louisa, though some whispered her name like a spell, afraid it might draw her gaze. In ledgers, she was merely seamstress. In rumor, she was something older, stranger. Silence turned to flesh. The year was 1847, the month damp and heavy. Mist clung to the trees, soft as mourning cloth. The plantation's white-pillared house sagged under weathered skies, its shutters warped, its paint peeled thin as bone. From the fields, the hum of labor rose like a dirge, the air thick with the smell of sweat and the sweet rot of magnolias. The master of the house, Jonathan Hale, walked proud among his property, cane striking porch boards like a gavel. He had a coat commissioned, not for warmth, but for display, a symbol of wealth stitched from imported cloth. That task fell, as always, to Louisa. She worked by candlelight in her small corner room, needle flashing in the glow like a weapon forged of silver. Her back straight, her face unreadable, her hands steady as tides. She rarely spoke. When she did, her words came soft, like something she would rather keep buried. Her silence unsettled even those who owned her, as though she were not simply refusing speech but holding secrets too heavy to give away. Louisa's work was perfect. Every seam straight, every stitch invisible, the kind of craft that could only come from devotion or ritual. When she paused, she would touch the fabric as though listening, as though the cloth itself murmured back. Housemaids whispered that she prayed over the garments, though no one dared ask to whom. The night she finished the master's coat, rain lashed the shutters. Wind rattled the panes, and Louisa bent low over the cloth, pressing her lips to the fabric before folding it across the chair. Her candle guttered once, then steadied, its flame curving toward her as though drawn. The next morning, Jonathan Hale wore his coat to oversee the fields. He struck a man for faltering and returned to the house with sweat shining on his pale temples. By supper, he trembled. His hands spilled wine. His eyes darted at corners, muttering of shadows stitched into seams. A fever seized him by midnight. The doctor was summoned from town, his horse foaming at the gate. He wrote in his ledger of Hale's condition, unaccountable convulsions, perspiration extreme, delirium as though haunted. He prescribed purgatives and bled the man, yet nothing eased the spasms. His patient clawed at his chest, at the coat itself, crying that something moved within it. Servants told of strange sights. One claimed the coat shimmered in moonlight as though damp. Another swore that, left on its chair, it seemed to breathe. Most stayed away from Louisa's workroom, where the air smelled faintly of herbs and something bitter, metallic. They noticed her calm when others panicked. Her stillness was a blade against the household's fear. But silence could not erase memory. Louisa's mother had once been seen in the woods, gathering roots by starlight, accused of conjure and punished for it. Louisa herself bore scars across her shoulders, gifts of a whip, yet she had learned more than pain. She had learned which leaves soothed and which corrupted. A tattered diary, much later found in the ashes of her quarters, told of pressed plants, notes scribbled in margins, belladonna for sight, foxglove for the heart, arsenic dust for silence everlasting. Now Hale's illness worsened. His breath came ragged, his skin waxen. When attendants tried to move the coat, they swore their fingers tingled, as though tiny needles pricked the flesh. The doctor, baffled, muttered of curses while insisting in daylight that it was a tropical fever. No one believed him. At night, the household whispered of Louisa. She had been seen walking the fields after dusk, her hands brushing weeds not fit for healing. A boy swore he heard her humming near the well, low and rhythmic, not song but spell. Others claimed she stared too long at the master, not with fear but with the gaze of someone waiting, someone who already knew the ending. When Jonathan Hale died, his face twisted, his body drenched in sweat, the coat was still clutched in his fists. His final cry, witnesses swore, was not for God but for the seamstress. They searched for Louisa at once. Her workroom was found in eerie order, chair pushed back, scraps folded neatly, scissors gleaming atop the table. But she was gone. No footprints, no struggle, only absence. Her candle burned low, wick curling like a blackened thread. The air smelled of iron and earth. Some said she fled into the swamps, where roots and fog would hide her. Others whispered she dissolved into smoke, taken by spirits she had served all along. The coat remained, locked in a chest, though no one dared touch it. Servants crossed themselves when they passed. Her silence was her power. Her needle was her voice. And now, with the master's body cold, both had vanished. They searched for Louisa in the swamps, lanterns swaying like ghost lights among the cypress. Dogs bayed, splashing through black water, but their cries faltered, whimpering as though some invisible hand pressed their throats. The men cursed, called her name into the fog, yet no echo returned. Only the sound of bullfrogs and the endless drip of swamp water answered back. By dawn, they had nothing. No body, no footprints, not even the ripple of a skirt. Louisa had unraveled from their grasp like thread slipping from a spool. The plantation staggered beneath her absence. Fear lay thicker than the damp. Field hands refused to enter her abandoned room. Maids would not touch her scissors, though they gleamed harmlessly on the table. Jonathan Hale's widow, pale with grief and suspicion, ordered the coat locked in a cedar chest. Yet even she did not dare keep the key beneath her roof, sending it to her brother in town as though distance alone might hold back its curse. But rumors are harder to bury than cloth. Stories festered, feeding on silence. Some said Louisa had poisoned the seams with arsenic dust, powdered so fine it rode the air. Others swore she had conjured a spirit into the coat, a shadow that gnawed at Hale from within. Mothers warned their children, "Do not hum at the well after dusk, or Louisa will hear and come stitching your name into her next garment." Years passed. The great house sagged. Termites gnawed its beams, vines strangled its galleries, rain beat holes into the roof. Hale's widow died raving, her final words begging them to burn the coat, though no one dared open the chest. By the time Union troops marched through, the plantation was more ruin than estate. Soldiers camped in the shell of the parlor, laughing at the legends, until one pried open the chest and dared to pull on the coat. He lasted 3 days, coughing, fevered, his eyes rolling with visions. His comrades buried him under the oaks and swore never to touch it again. The chest was nailed shut, left behind as the army moved on. The decades blurred, yet Louisa's name refused to vanish. In town, an old doctor's ledger was discovered, its pages stained, its notes brittle, symptoms inexplicable. Seamstress vanished. Recommend burial of garment. Alongside it, a fragment of diary from a servant girl, recounting nights of trembling. She looked at me and smiled without her mouth. She put her finger to the cloth, and I felt a pricking in my skin, though she had not touched me. Scholars debated, skeptics scoffed, but the pages carried weight heavier than any proof. Children dared one another to creep to the ruin. They spoke of hearing the faint scrape of a needle, the hush of thread pulled tight, though no wind moved. One boy claimed he saw a woman's shape through the collapsed roof, head bent, hands working though she held nothing. He never spoke again, struck mute until his death. Time warped Louisa into more than memory. She became ghost, curse, conjure queen, patron saint of the silent. Songs were hummed in secret, prayers laced with her name, though always whispered, never shouted. They said if you found yourself powerless, if you needed justice no court would grant, you could leave a scrap of cloth at the edge of the swamp. By morning, the cloth would be gone, and soon after, so too would your oppressor's peace. In the early 20th century, travelers from the north wandered the ruins, sketching and collecting relics. One took the cedar chest, pried open and emptied, though locals swore the coat itself had already vanished. Museums refused to catalog it. Private collectors whispered they had it, though none produced evidence beyond trembling descriptions. A weight heavier than cloth, the smell of iron, a dizziness, as though standing too near lightning. And so the legend deepened. Was Louisa ever flesh, or had she been shadow all along? Some believed she slipped into the swamp, survived, and passed her secrets down. Others swore she melted into myth, her body consumed by the same poison she wielded. What remained were fragments, a pressed leaf, a tarnished needle, a coat that no one dared wear. Even now, the house lies broken, its chimneys jagged against the sky, its stairwell leading nowhere. Visitors who dare wander close speak of hearing faint music, a hum too low to place, rising from the ground itself. Some report the sensation of fabric brushing their arm though no one stands beside them. More than one has sworn that in the moonlight, they saw a glimmer, a silver needle, hanging midair, moving with deliberate precision through darkness. What Louisa stitched cannot be unpicked. Whether she was seamstress or sorceress, victim or avenger, her silence outlived every witness. The coat may rest still, folded in shadow, waiting for the next hand foolish enough to try it on. And if you should ever hear the faint rasp of thread drawn through cloth when no one is sewing, if you feel a prick at your skin though nothing pierces you, do not look behind you. Do not call her name. For some say she listens, needle always poised, ready to weave the next soul into her unfinished work. Which city are you watching our video from? Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.